give you a bit of an introduction. Emma's talked a sort of helicopter vision about what we're looking to do. I'm going to dig down into a little bit of the detail, and I've entitled my few slides, "Have I Got Construction News for You?" Because as I see it, the UK construction industry is at this fork in the road. Do we continue business as usual, or do we look for this better way, which Constructing Excellence has been trying to lead for a good 20 years? It was interesting to me on the slide that Emma put up about the leaders, that actually 2 of the 5 people, Sir Michael Latham and Sir John Egan, were actually the authors of reports in 94 and 98 respectively about the construction industry needing to change its culture, become less adversarial, more collaborative, to be less fragmented and more integrated. And isn't it interesting that 20, 25 years on, we're still having that debate? We've got several issues at the moment that confront us. My view is, having been involved in the change agenda for 20 years, that perhaps the one thing that was lacking was a crisis, because change happens best in a crisis. And I wonder whether that crisis is now with us. We've got Brexit, we've got the capacity issues and the skills shortages that is already bringing, and I'm sure CITB will talk about that later. We've got the housing crisis, this social need to deliver 300,000 homes per annum. And let's be honest, we're even at best, we're only achieving about 2/3 of that at the moment. So that is a crisis. We've got this now acceptance that maybe off-site is a way that we should adopt. And Emma's talked about that. But actually, when you delve into the detail of off-site, there's a whole knowledge gap. We've tried to assess that this year, and we're doing our own thing in terms of trying to plug the gap where we can. And the first part of that is a legal off-site guide that Alan Tate is going to talk about in more detail later on, so I won't steal his thunder. But part of the work we're doing within Constructing Excellence, within our thought leadership groups, is to look at where the gaps in knowledge are and then produce deliverables to plug those gaps. If we look at the Grenfell Tower disaster that Emma's already alluded to, what we're seeing now, thankfully, is a change in culture in terms of where the emphasis must lie. We cannot continue along this lowest price path. We have to think about quality, competence, compliance. And I'm delighted that those 3 things are now at the forefront of most people's minds. And of course, we had the Carillion debacle earlier this year, where I think for the first time, the construction industry has been on the front page of all the newspapers for the very, very wrong reasons. For the first time, people are now looking in at us as an industry and are incredulous at the way we perform and the way we behave. And there's an acknowledgement that it has to stop. Interestingly, the government have put together a panel of 30 or 40 MPs to look at the culture of construction. I've written to my local MP and I've pleaded with him, please don't reinvent wheels. If you go back to Egan and you go back to Latham and everything that's happened since, there's a plethora of case studies and information that can be used. But the thing for me is that I just wonder, I question whether that crisis is now here and the time for change is upon us. So that's the slide that I think probably epitomizes how a lot of people see it at the moment. And I would like to suggest to you that that is Constructing Excellence, because we are the paddle up SH1T Creek. Because we've been doing this for 20 plus years. We have case studies, exemplar projects, demonstration projects, and all sorts of documents that can show people the way to a better collaborative working future and how to integrate supply chains and how to implement lean processes. So if you want to be part of that driving force that is making the changes, then you're in the right place. So Constructing Excellence, as Emma's already alluded to, is about excellence through collaboration. That, if you cut us open, all of us that have been involved, that collaboration is what you'll see right through us. As an organisation, we're not for profit, and we're about transferring knowledge and best practice. I've mentioned the 20-year platform that we've already had, and here in the Southwest, CE Southwest is the Southwest platform for delivering that change, both nationally as we communicate upwards, if you like, but also working closely with our 9 clubs to make sure that the communication channels are wide open, back and forth. If you weren't aware of our history, this slide shows you it. We've already talked about Latham and Egan that go back to 94, 98. But also we came up with the construction clients' commitments in 2006 that surrounded the building of the Olympics. What was considered a crisis, when the wheels fell off the economy, Andrew Wolstenholme did a report, Never Waste a Good Crisis, in 2010. That didn't work, but I'm hoping it might this time. And of course, we've got the 2025 industry commitments that came out, 5 years ago. We've got the 500 demonstration projects that I talked about. And if anyone in the room doesn't think it's a good idea to adopt best practice principles, and if you're an FD that doesn't get it because they can't count the bottom right-hand figure, just have a look at this graph here. Because this chart I show everywhere I go. If you take that horizontal purple line as the performance of the UK construction industry as a whole, and if you then look at the bars, all those bars are the results of demonstration projects using constructing excellence principles. You probably can't read all the names at the bottom, but it's all about client satisfaction, it's all about productivity, profitability, health and safety, sustainability. But every bar you can see outperforms traditional construction if you apply the collaborative principles that we espouse. So if anybody needed proof, those 500 demonstration projects give it to you. We just need to do it. We've got this strategy that started back in 2013. It's emerging all the time. It's all about people, smart technology, sustainability, growth and leadership. And you remember the targets on the right-hand side? We're moving steadily towards them, but we need to accelerate that change. Lower costs, by the way, that doesn't mean lower costs in terms of building. That's whole life costs that we're trying to reduce. Fast delivery, well, we've seen the acceleration towards offsite. Lower emissions, that's the sustainability agenda and the low carbon agenda and so on that we're on. And David's going to talk about that a little bit later. So again, I'm not going to steal his thunder. And then improvement in exports. That actually means our balance of trade and maybe the ability to export some of our, not necessarily products, but knowledge around the world, which is actually something we do pretty well. So, many of you will have seen this slide before. I make no excuses for repeating it, because this slide tells you what we believe in. Anyone involved in constructing excellence, this is at the heart of everything we do. Early involvement. You must involve the supply chain early. Select on value, not lowest price. Have common processes and tools. BIM is an obvious example of that, and it's something, as I chair BIM for Housing nationally, again, we're at a crisis in that situation as well. But, let's start using BIM as an enabler to get that early involvement and as a common process. But it's not cosy relationships we're looking for. We're looking for measurement. We're looking for KPIs. So if the people you choose in that supply chain are wrong, if they don't perform, it's not a cosy arrangement, they have to go. So KPIs are critical. We're looking then for the long-term relationships which bring about continuous improvement and enable you to adopt lean processes. And then, for goodness sake, let's start looking at modern commercial arrangements, modern contracts that dictate a collaborative culture. Why do we always go down that JCT route? Because we've always done it. And guess what? at the other end, we always get the same problems. Why can't we think differently? There are collaborative contracts out there that can be used. When appropriate, for goodness sake, let's use them. And why? We know this. I keep putting this slide up, and I put it up every year, because that's where we should be making the changes. That's where the value can be added. Guess what? We always do it at the other end of the graph. That's why we're so adamant that that early involvement is key to the success of collaborative working and is key to the future of this industry if we're going to make the changes that we insist are needed. So how? And these are my last few slides talking about what we're doing within Constructing Excellence Southwest. We've got a very strong board. You've heard from Emma, and you've heard the direction of travel we're taking with leadership as a key driver. Along with Emma, we have our vice chair is David Sutton, who's head of civils at EDF Energy. We have Alan Tate sitting at the back, who's our company secretary. And we have others like Lisa, who's here from Homes England, and Dan Macy, who's here from SBS Envirowall somewhere. Paul Richards is here from Aquarian. Have I missed anyone else that's here? Apologies if I have. But it's a board of 15. We've got a leadership council, which is chaired now by Bob Taylor of Southwest Water, which actually brings together for the first time all the elements of the construction industry. All the industry bodies like the RIBA, the RICS, CITB, who's speaking later, CIOB, etc. Any acronym you can shake a stick at. There's about 18 of them. And they're all on that body. Universities are on it, colleges. Bridgewater and Taunton are here with us today. Thank you for coming. We've got all our clubs, all our thought leadership forums, and making sure the whole supply chain. But for the first time, we've got the whole industry with the opportunity to work together so that we don't duplicate effort, we don't water down much needed resource. And then I've got my own delivery team who work, and Emma's here. Hello, Emma. For example, leading our Adopt a School campaign. The thought leadership forums that we created 4 years ago are now beginning to create real knowledge. And that knowledge is proving useful in terms of influencing the way people behave. If I give you an example, Martin Jones is in the house somewhere. Where's Martin? Martin's there. Leads our procurement team. And they've issued a couple of documents which we know have been cut and pasted into Dorset County Council's procurement rules, for example. We know that one major contractor used it to win a piece of work and so on. So we know that the work that's happening is positive. Another piece done by our lean team, development finance, currently being used by Welsh Government to help build houses. So those people that are coming together to create knowledge to fill those gaps, we know that the outputs are being used. And I hope that means that the people involved feel they're useful. And then obviously we've got our clubs, which are key to disseminating that knowledge. And we've got 9, from Cornwall in the southwest to Gloucester in the north and Wiltshire and Swindon in the east and various others in the middle. And that's another way of you guys getting involved with the network. Because our plea is that you use Constructing Excellence as a vehicle to drive this change that we need. But the only way we can do that is if you guys muck in. If you guys acknowledge that we have to spend time on our business, not just in our business. We all know we're busy, but if we just step out from that business for a few hours and have a bit of helicopter vision, it makes an enormous amount of change to the way we operate. And the mere fact you're here, I suggest, means you're the type of people that would consider that favourably. The key principles, I've talked about them, but learning and sharing knowledge, which is why we're here, taking that knowledge and influencing with it, and then the networking. But the difference between CE and other organisations is that the networking is a byproduct. We come together to do good stuff because the good stuff is needed, and the networking happens. And networking is great, by the way. That's the only skill I've got. I don't do anything else. But networking is a great skill, but it's a byproduct of coming together to do all the good things that we've talked about. So I've talked about some of these. Not going to go through it in any more detail. These are the sorts of things that we do, club level, regional level. And then, as Emma said, we have awards, not just for the built environment tonight, but also we've introduced a couple of years ago G4C awards, because we're putting a lot of emphasis on young people, a lot of emphasis on giving them career paths, acknowledging the leaders of tomorrow. I've mentioned where the influences come, the development finance guide and so on, the offsite guide, which we're going to hear about later. We were asked to do a procurement workshop for one county council. The national CE agenda, we're working with now through the Constructing Excellence Regional Partnership, which is what SERP stands for. And interestingly, the rest of the UK has been looking in at what we've been doing down in the little bit of the southwest, and have acknowledged that actually we're doing pretty well, and that in construction excellence terms, maybe there's some best practice to be gleaned from what we're doing. So I've been invited to recreate the southwest in the Midlands, and we're going to be doing that from the 1st of July. So if any of you have got Midlands-based offices, you might be interested to know that the same structure is kicking off across the East and West Midlands. And also, I don't know whether Melissa's here yet. Melissa? Not yet. I know she was coming slightly late. Our chief exec from CE Wales have lost funding. And again, they have chosen to follow the Southwest model. So those of you that are involved in constructing excellence anywhere at all, I would suggest to you that what we're doing in the Southwest is considered to be best practice. And also the Adopt a School campaign that Emma's been leading so wonderfully for the last 2 years. The Southern Construction Framework have now decided to transfer their funding across to the southeast, and Emma's at the moment looking at how we can do that. So it's another success story. But what it does mean is that we're short of a funder for the Adopt a School campaign in the southwest. So if there's any organisation in the audience that feels like they'd like to be associated with this success story, please have a chat with Emma or myself later on. In terms of the networking, just a few figures for you. The clubs probably have at least, I would say, an event a week. So lots of networking opportunities. And they come together twice a year as club chairs to meet. The Thought Leadership Forums meet, all of them 4 times each, so that's 24 meetings. Regional events, we have 5, obviously, major events. This is one of them. And then we have the board meetings and the leadership council meetings. But there's well over 1,000 people now active across the southwest in CE. And I would suggest to you that most of the people involved are at senior level. These are leaders in their own businesses. These are people that can influence change, because that's what we're about. Going forward, as I say, Emma's led, with the help of David and Alan and Paul Wilson, has led a new structure, a new governance, a new business plan. And what we feel is this will take us to the next level. We've done pretty well. We've been going for 3 years, and we've done okay. But we were getting to the stage where the expectations were growing, and we had to put a structure around what we were about and how we could do it. Because if I'm honest, the limiting factor was me, and that was not sustainable. So something had to be done to change that. Hi, Katrina. This is Katrina, by the way, my opposite number from the northeast. Thanks for coming. Not that I want to make an issue. No, I knew you were coming out, and I love the red, by the way. It's good. Thanks. You should have seen her last week. You should have seen her last week at her awards last week. She lifted up her frock, and underneath was a pair of bloomers with the red, white, and blue Union Jack. So I know Katrina doesn't mind. So getting back to the script, if there was one. Oh, by the way, I must tell you what. Just while we've stopped, somebody complained about me last week. Would you believe that? And do you know what the complaint was? Have a guess what the complaint was? That wherever I am, I always promote the next musical show that I'm in. That was the complaint, because they didn't think it was professional. So I shan't do that anymore. But I'm in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. at the Bristol Hippodrome from the 18th to the 22nd of September, and I'm playing Lord Scrumptious. Tickets are available. Anyway, so if you're in the room, the person that complained. So, anyway, back to the script. Look, we need more movers and shakers. We need additional resource to keep going, to accelerate the change that Emma and I have alluded to. We need more time, we need more money, and that equals more work. So if you're not a member yet of CE, please come on board. Please join as an organisation. But more importantly, get involved as individuals in the clubs, in the thought leadership groups. And if you want to, on the Leadership Council and the board. Nationally, we've got Mark Farmer as our chair. He is driving the change agenda across construction. He is the man that the UK government is listening to. We are so fortunate to have Mark as our chair. What a wonderful position that puts us in. He's co-chair. We've got these issues relating to Grenfell and Carillion that I've alluded to. Never before has the need for CE been greater. So my message today is, please enjoy today. Take as much out of today as you possibly can. But the opportunity of a lifetime has to be grasped in the lifetime of the opportunity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is now. Thank you.